everyone, and thanks for joining. My name is Tracy Cook. I'm the online media manager for ModernAnalyst.com, the premier community for business analysts. I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar entitled Business Model Resiliency, Moving to Online Services for Lower Total Cost of Ownership. Today's featured speaker is Mark Gamble, Product and Solutions Marketing Director at Couchbase. Mark is a passionate product marketer with a technical and solution consulting background with 20 plus years of experience in enterprise and open source technology. The webinar today will last approximately 60 minutes, including the question and answer session at the end. Please be sure to submit your questions in advance using the questions feature of the GoToWebinar software. You can also download 2 handouts in the handout section of the control panel as well. And we'd like to say thank you to Couchbase for sponsoring today's event. And with that, Mark, welcome.
Thank you so much, Tracy, and thanks to Modern Analyst for producing today's event. As Tracy said, I'm Mark Gamble, Director of Product and Solutions Marketing here at Couchbase, and I'm really excited today to talk about the cost advantages of a managed cloud service model and how it can provide nimble deployment, bring business resilience, and a great return on investment, especially when leveraging the right cloud-native technologies. We'll look at it today through the lens of data, specifically Database as a Service, or DBaaS. Of course, here at Couchbase, we feel that data is arguably the lifeblood of any application. And so a database should be first on your list when planning your move to managed cloud services. My goal today is to describe how the right DBaaS, or Database as a Service, can help you meet the increasing demands of today's online applications, and how Couchbase Cloud is really the best option, offering the lowest TCO on the market as compared to other major DBaaS competitors. So with that, let's dive right in. So first, we'll explore this mad rush, if you will, to the cloud, how its current acceleration can really be attributed to the last year, 2020, the year of the pandemic, and how it led to drastic and immediate changes in online behavior across the globe. We'll look at the rise of DBaaS in response. Next, I'll talk about Couchbase Cloud, the cloud-native database as a service that offers the features, scale, and ease of deployment to help you meet these new demands. And then I'll end off with the results from an Altaurus report that compares 3 database as a service offerings: Couchbase Cloud, MongoDB Atlas, and Amazon DynamoDB in a head-to-head performance evaluation using the YCSB benchmarks. It's really kind of an eye-opening study with some dramatic results, and I'll sum it all up as it applies to total cost of ownership. So make sure to stick around for the entire program. So cloud and cloud managed services have been really on a tear, as they say, for years now. But growth and adoption has really accelerated because of the way much of the world now conducts business, leisure, and social activities. The past year represents the decentralization of consumers and workforces, as the global crisis drove everyone to distance and stay home. But the need to work and shop and socialize didn't go away. We just turned it doing it all online. And as a consequence, we went from occasionally connected to pervasively connected as a society. And this drove immense demand on systems that weren't originally designed to handle it, and left many organizations scrambling to solve the problems of exponentially growing online users trying to use increasingly slow applications. In response, many have turned to the cloud, or beginning to turn to the cloud, and the promise of cloud-based services to quickly deploy and scale to meet that demand. Analyst firms like 451, Forrester, and McKinsey have all focused recently on the phenomena that I just described through research of evolving IT and technical infrastructure priorities that over the course of 2020. And what they found was very interesting. Initially, early on in the crisis, there was kind of a pullback where IT was expected to focus on cost saving exclusively. But by midsummer, there was a shift in priorities, particularly around improving online user experience. again, in response to the changing consumer behaviors. A simple example is customers ordering online from the supermarket who now expect to get curbside pickup rather than go inside the store. And something this basic can have big implications on the retailer. How do they know when you're outside? How do they verify it's you? How do they interact with customers in a touchless way? So these sorts of examples are driving the shift in technology priorities. As 451 found, 83% of organizations that they surveyed said they are modernizing and updating existing applications. And these findings converge nicely with the growing move to the cloud because of the benefits that managed services like a DBaaS can provide to accelerate the modernization efforts and bring the necessary scale to meet that demand. If we look at the value proposition, the key value points, if you will, of managed cloud services such as DBaaS, they generally fall into these four categories. A database as a service can help save on costs, as you don't have to shoulder the burden of installing hardware, procuring, setting up, and managing your own data center. You can also take advantage of elasticity, scaling up to meet demands at peak times and scale back down in non-peak times, and save a lot on compute resources, all of which contribute to a general lowering of TCO versus a self-managed on-prem model. By eliminating the need for in-house staff to take care of maintenance things like backups and upgrades and other tasks, you simplify provisioning and become freed up to focus on your core competency, that is your application. Database as a service brings resilience in its ability to evolve quickly and recover from failure, lowering risks and reducing the propensity toward error through a simple concept: reduce what your resources have to manage. And it provides agility in its ability to quickly create enterprise scale environments on demand and use them for production deployment, or just as discardable testing sandbox environments for innovative app development. This really, really accelerates things. And all of these key value points really begin to make it clear why the as a service cloud model has become a go-to strategy for organizations who need to quickly modernize their application infrastructures. The kinds of modern applications that Nosql database as a service can support, because of its greater scale and flexibility versus a relational database management system, are generally comprised of some combination of these common elements. First, you have people, your users of the application. They have user profiles that can contain information such as email address, social accounts, and application preferences. Then you often have a location element relative to application infrastructure. Where is the data center? What regions are involved? And relative to the user, where do they reside? And in many cases, location, like where are they right now? Next, we see devices, mostly in the form of smartphones and handheld devices. Every one of us is likely carrying one right now. It's a primary means of connection in the new economy. It's really sort of driving this rush to the cloud. The consumers are perusing and purchasing goods and taking advantage of offers and going to events or online events, and this is driving up transactions. And there's increased interaction in applications. Online activity now really goes beyond a few clicks and done. Users make comparisons and change their options and do this many times before making a decision or a purchase. And all of this has to be supported often by legacy data. The mission critical historic pricing tables or tax tables, the data that you just can't live without, but that really struggles to keep up. So why does a NoSQL database really fit these requirements? Because of its flexible nature and JSON document-based underpinnings, which, for example, makes it ideal at adapting to changing data like user profiles, Being able to change and accommodate this change immediately without requiring schema adjustments and tons of a DBA's time, which is actually the case for rigid fixed relational schema, but not with NoSQL. In NoSQL, and in particular Couchbase, offers that flexibility, making it easy to evolve applications as new users come online. And it provides the scale necessary for growing applications through a distributed architecture that can accommodate the decentralized user base on their devices. Couchbase Cloud DBaaS has this singular ability. It can talk to any other Couchbase, the self-managed Couchbase implementation, on-prem or in a private cloud. And this allows customers to establish a tiered micro data center architecture with Couchbase Cloud at the hub. And this can run on the cloud, on local networks, local data centers, micro data centers, even on mobile devices, powering applications that for our customers provide real-time responsiveness and zero downtime. So now let's talk a bit about Couchbase Cloud and how it's really ideally suited to provide the required scale, flexibility, and ease of deployment to help your organizations move to cloud online services. Couchbase is a unique combination of NoSQL concepts. First is the processing of key value information in memory for hyper-fast responsiveness. This is a way in which many bespoke early forms of NoSQL were created just for key value and in-memory processing to do things like caching the value of frequently visited URLs to provide just faster response, especially in a high volume and a high activity environment. So coupled with this, we brought distributed storage of a JSON document-based data and a schemaless nature for flexibility and resilience. And this is that notion again, where without the confines of a rigid schema, NoSQL can adapt more quickly because of the JSON document-based model, which can accommodate changes on the fly, arguably. And you build applications and the data accommodates the application versus building a database and forcing your applications to accommodate the database. That's simply too rigid and introduces delays and changes, that relational model. So NoSQL really gets around this through that flexible model. And it's also very resilient. And to this, we add full support for containerization. And on top of that, add mobile and edge capabilities and a full set of built-in features like SQL querying, full text search, built-in eventing, built-in analytics. These are things that formerly, with other technologies, you had to bolt on. You had to acquire a multitude of different technologies to achieve what comes part and parcel with Couchbase. These are things you no longer have to bolt on from a bunch of different technologies. So with all of this, you have Couchbase in a nutshell. So Couchbase is that distributed NoSQL database that delivers versatility, performance, scale, and value across cloud, on-prem, edge, and hybrid deployments. And when we consider how Couchbase is different from other modern databases, there are really three key areas where we win with our customers. First, in agility and flexibility for your developers. Couchbase accelerates application development by capitalizing on a ubiquitous query language, SQL. It offers full text search, adaptive indexing, along with seamless data synchronization, all as core features of that software. Again, you don't have to bolt these things on. Customer studies show that these tenets enable a 20% faster development lifecycle for applications. Next, Couchbase offers predictable performance at scale for IT architects. The server can handle any volume, volatility, or speed of data, any number of sources, and any number of end users with an in-memory dataset process, smart optimization, performant indexing, and built-in replication. This is key. Built-in replication that ensures data integrity and availability. And customers report that their applications show a 10 to 20 times better performance on Couchbase. And it's the easiest platform to manage for your DevOps folks. It helps streamline setup and configuration. It helps your organization take advantage of multi-cloud and hybrid cloud agility. And it helps ensure availability with the 5 nines, those coveted 5 nines, 99.999% available and reliable. Customers report 37% more efficient database management and a 14% lower database licensing costs using Couchbase. So Couchbase Server is the basis of our value, the bedrock, if you will, but don't just take my word for it. The readers of database trends and applications voted Couchbase the best database overall in this year's DBTA Reader's Choice Awards. Couchbase also won the Best in-Memory Database category for the 3rd consecutive year. We received finalist distinction in the categories of Best NoSQL Database, Best IoT Solution, and Couchbase Cloud, our topic for today, makes its debut on the annual Reader's Choice list as a finalist for Best Cloud Database. We're really honored to have received this recognition. I think it really speaks to the value that our customers are getting from the technology. Couchbase Cloud, as an extension, is our fully managed database as a service for Couchbase Server. It offers automated deployment, scaling, failure recovery, upgrades, and backups as part of the service. Again, already starting to lower the total cost of ownership. We're taking all of that off of your plate. And it gives you a unified monitoring console and alerting of all Couchbase clusters under management through a single pane of glass. This is inclusive of the underlying cloud infrastructure where Couchbase is deployed. We support hybrid cloud deployments from the standpoint of replication. This is the ability to replicate data from self-managed Couchbase clusters into Couchbase Cloud. We also offer, and this is really important, in VPC deployment. So as you move to the cloud, you'll have to start to consider things like data privacy and sovereignty and GDPR, things of this nature. Well, with Couchbase Cloud, your data is in your virtual private cloud, managed by you, encrypted and secured end-to-end. So it's not just a black box where you rely on the vendor to provide SLAs to cover your requirements for data privacy and security. With Couchbase Cloud, it's actually living in your own VPC, your own property, and is thus subject to meeting those requirements. A little about the offering: there's a free trial to allow you to evaluate the service, and we have 2 paid offerings, Developer Pro and Enterprise, which are differentiated by price and SLA. With these offerings, you get Couchbase Server and management, leveraging your cloud service provider, and it enables you to optimize your infrastructure cost based on your needs. And the use cases supported on the service are all those same cases that are supported by Couchbase at large, the ones our customers deploy most often. Catalog and inventory management, profile and session management, Customer 360, a ubiquitous understanding of customer interaction, digital transformation, and of course, even simple caching use cases. This is a common customer use case using Couchbase as that persistent cache. So what do you get with a fully managed service? I mean, this goes back to some of my earlier comments about as a service, the as a service model, and it really plays out here with DBaaS and specifically with Couchbase Cloud in convenience, savings, and peace of mind. So as a service, we handle maintenance, monitoring, and alerting. We provide automated management based on industry best practices. The data is secure because you own it. It lives in your VPC. The environment is flexible to scale up or down to meet any requirements. And the built-in replication and self-healing features provide a highly available foundation for your applications. That's where that resilience comes in. Purchasing options are straightforward and easy, and the ability for hourly pricing as well as annual packages and prepaid discounts allows you to develop on the hourly plans where you can be most cost conscious, and then go into production with prepaid discounts where costs become predictable, all again impacting the low TCO. And because you're leveraging your own VPC, you can better control those costs further than some other offerings because you can leverage reserved pricing from your cloud service provider. Why did we bring Couchbase Cloud to market? Well, it's all about empowering the developer, unlocking business agility, streamlining operations, and controlling costs. So we do DBaaS better by enabling developers to get started quickly and use Couchbase Cloud easily, leveraging existing skills in a secure fashion. So developers can start with, again, single node cluster on an hourly plan, and as the application grows, grow Couchbase across additional nodes as needed and go into production. And we do DBaaS faster. Deploy a cluster and grant users access in just a few clicks. You can scale and upgrade clusters easily in minutes using the cloud control plane. You can leverage built-in features to configure your environment as well as monitor your success. And we do DBaaS more economically. Couchbase's proven scale and speed really enable you to achieve that superior performance with less infrastructure. And so we'll take a look at it in a minute, but that's really key to this lowering your TCO while meeting those demands of your applications with a cloud service model. And built-in configuration and monitoring means you don't have to buy third-party software to do so. And since the IaaS is procured directly from the cloud service provider, again, you can leverage reserved instance pricing to significantly reduce those costs. This is just a simplified architecture of Couchbase Cloud. The data planes here on the right represent the Couchbase clusters across various cloud providers' availability zones. And notice that we're representing the three major cloud providers here. So when you create a new cluster, we deploy a Kubernetes cluster within your virtual private cloud, along with Couchbase Autonomous Operator that provides these automated management capabilities, as well as a monitoring plane that leverages Prometheus. And that cluster is then automatically deployed across multiple availability zones within the region. And here we see this depicted across AWS, Azure, and GCP. Azure and AWS available today, GCP coming later this year. And the entire ecosystem is accessed and monitored through a single pane of glass, the cloud control plane. And as you start to evaluate online services, this becomes key. You need a way to sort of manage everything going on in your service through a single interface. A lot of competitive offerings will force you to use different interfaces or get different clients in order to take advantage of different parts of the service. Everything is handled with Couchbase Cloud through the same single cloud control plane, depicted here on the left. This is the place that you log in to work with Couchbase Cloud. It allows you to control everything in your account instance, from user and group management, access permissions, cluster management, monitoring and metering, event management, and more. And one of the unique aspects, again, is that control plane, because seeing everything to do with your account in one place is very much unlike some other DBaaS solutions that make you use separate tools or UIs for administration or querying or optimizing and the like. And this is where developers can use the UI to create development projects, spin up a data sandbox, assign your team of collaborators with specific privileges, and work directly on the data using utilities built right into the console. And it's transient in nature. You can then dispose of it after your testing is done. Getting started with Couchbase Cloud is arguably as easy as the proverbial 1, 2, 3. You go to cloud.couchbase.com and click Create an Account. And this is where you get the free trial. Next, you create your Couchbase Cloud environment. Again, AWS and Azure available today. Google Cloud coming later in 2021. And once your account is set up, you spin up your cluster with just a few mouse clicks and start developing. It really is as easy as that. So Couchbase Cloud's differentiators break into these 5 key points. Number 1 is the inheritance of all of the capabilities of Couchbase Server. Powerful and versatile NoSQL database. All the reasons that customers rely on Couchbase Server for their applications every day come part and parcel with Couchbase Cloud. Number 2 is about control and data security through in-VPC deployment. So in-VPC deployment is an emerging best practice that's not found in competitive DBaaS offerings, but is the primary deployment option for Couchbase Cloud. So without in-VPC deployment, you, the customer, may in fact lose some control of data security and sovereignty by not being in command of the environment where the software resides. And this could jeopardize compliance with data residency and ownership regulations like GDPR, CCPA, and others. So with in-VPC deployment, you get the peace of mind. You stay in complete control of the data. Number 3 is the ability to control multiple database clusters from a single console instead of managing them as individual entities. Number 4 is the ability to control replication and cloud migrations by taking advantage of Couchbase's hybrid cloud replication capabilities and our cross-region data center replication, XDCR. And this supports high availability and disaster recovery. And number 5 is about, again, controlling costs, the bottom line. Couchbase offers the best price performance and lowest TCO of any NoSQL DBaaS vendor for their workloads. In fact, our customer, who I'll focus on a little bit towards the end here, Facet Digital, told us that they reduced costs by 50% and increased application performance by 2,000% by switching to Couchbase Cloud. They said it at our Connect conference. Amazing results there. Now let's transition to the Altoros report and total cost of ownership conclusions. The recent Altoros report, which is available on Altoros.com as well as Couchbase.com, evaluated Couchbase Cloud versus MongoDB Atlas and Amazon DynamoDB using the Yahoo Cloud Serving Benchmark, otherwise known as YCSB. And this is an open source spec for evaluating capabilities of NoSQL databases. So the tests were across 4 workloads under 3 different configurations each. And from the results, we created a formula to measure the TCO value associated with each workload based on the environment cost broken out over operations per second, calculating the millions of operations per dollar. And while each of the offerings showed strengths and weaknesses across every workload, virtually every workload, Couchbase Cloud emerged as the best of the 3. So let's take a look. First, a little bit about the tests. Workload A is update heavy, an even split between reads and updates. So we decided to use that as our first and for a cornerstone, if you will, evaluation. Workload E is around scanning of short ranges with a light amount of updating. The pagination workload scans nearly the entire database and evaluates the performance of returned results in pagination. In this one, we wanted to take advantage of the ability to even go into a given document for specific values as part of the criteria. And then finally, and lastly, join workloads. This is where we tested joins with grouping and aggregations. This one arguably was stacked a little in our favor because Couchbase NoSQL is a bit unique in its ability to support relational concepts such as joins within the query engine. So the 3 configurations for each workload were a 6-node cluster with 50 million records, a 9-node cluster with 100 million records, and an 18-node cluster with 200 million records. This was in order to get an accurate sense of performance. We didn't want to just go with one test. We did 3 different workloads with 3 different volumes of data and processing. With around 8.3 million records per node for the 6-node cluster, 11.1 million records per node for the 9-node and 8-node clusters. Showing you this to give you a sense for how we came up with our ultimate conclusions. And as a baseline for total cost of ownership, we wanted to understand the relative costs going in for infrastructure as well as licensing. So in the case of DynamoDB, they don't offer instance-based infrastructure pricing, so we elected to match DynamoDB spend with MongoDB Atlas costs for this comparison. You could, of course, spend more with DynamoDB for improved scale, but that's not relevant to a low TCO exercise. We'll get into the results in a second, but just to show you how Altoros gave us, provided their results. This is the first test for workload A at the 6-node level, and the 9-node level and 18-node level. So the three competitors here at the 6-node level are fairly close. Couchbase Cloud slightly outperforming DynamoDB and Atlas, but as the size increases to 9, then 16 nodes, we see a real dramatic uptick in Couchbase performance, due mostly to its ability to take reads at any node in the database versus having to go first through a primary node model like Atlas. Across the board, we see Couchbase also with the lowest latency of the competitors. So we wanted to represent a common metric to evaluate the value of the three products. We know each is, under the hood, a little different from the other, but we really wanted a single value to evaluate, relevant across the board to measure for TCO. And we arrived at a millions of operations per dollar metric. And this is because we know the environment costs, and Altoros shows us the number of operations per second, and we know how many seconds there are in a month. So we can then create the formula to calculate the millions of operations per dollar, and from that then calculate the Couchbase advantage by comparing the millions of operations per dollar for each vendor. So again, as a simple example, as we apply the formula to the first workload on 6 nodes only, here's what that looks like, where DynamoDB comes out at about 12.9 millions of operations per dollar. Atlas comes out at about 8.1 million of operations per dollar, and Couchbase comes out at 15.7 million of operations per dollar. So this, in turn, represents a Couchbase advantage of 22% over DynamoDB and 94% over Atlas in this single test. So with the explanation out of the way, let's dive into the results. For that first evaluation, the read and update heavy workload, Couchbase Cloud showed amazingly low latency times across all cluster sizes. And again, as we saw earlier, it posted similar results to Amazon DynamoDB when measured on a 6-node cluster, but Couchbase Cloud really shined again on the 9 and 18-node clusters with latency times of less than a millisecond across the board. MongoDB Atlas hit ceilings on threads that affected its performance, emphasized by the Couchbase Cloud value advantage, again, comparing millions of operations per second based on the test results. And this showed a 94% advantage on the 6-node, but the value shoots up to the higher number as we get to the higher number of nodes, 369% advantage on the 9-node and 306% advantage on the 18-node configurations, respectively. And for Amazon DynamoDB, they simply ran out of capacity to process. And as we've heard anecdotally, customers simply have to spend more to get more resources to meet performance goals. So at the base configuration and spend, the value advantage over DynamoDB is modest at the 6-node test, 22%. But again, the value shoots up with a higher number of nodes to 180% on 9 nodes and 230% on 18 nodes. Impressive numbers on workload A, which again is a cornerstone YCSB evaluation for NoSQL databases. When measured on a short-range scan workload, Couchbase Cloud really again stood out. While MongoDB Atlas performed well here, growing in efficiency as more shards were added, Couchbase Cloud demonstrated the best overall results with a gradual increase in operations per second, as well as the lowest and most stable latency. So workload E shows Couchbase Cloud as 18% behind Atlas on the 6-node, but came in 60% better on the 9-node and 9% better on the 18-node configuration. So I think we still clearly shine in the bigger picture across all of the tests here. And the third workload, the results for the third workload only involved MongoDB Atlas and Couchbase Cloud. And again, this is because of some of the limitations for being able to perform this workload brought to the table by Dynamo. So both Couchbase Cloud and MongoDB Atlas gave fairly flat results in terms of their relative difference between 6, 9, and 18 node clusters. Here throughout, it was low since the size of the data set indexes doubled. But here again, Couchbase Cloud was still able to outperform Atlas across all cluster sizes on this workload, showing 120% value advantage in the 6-node cluster, 104% in the 9-node cluster, and 90% in the 18-node cluster. And meanwhile, again, Amazon DynamoDB was unable to compete entirely because its indexing process works in such a way that it requires complex full table scans, which took too long for this workload, and it returned timeout errors. So because of that, we had to actually eliminate them from this test. It was unable to compete. And the final workload, a 100% read join heavy test. The results went wildly in favor of Couchbase Cloud. And again, this is tipping the scale a bit in our favor, because out of the three, we're the only that support this notion, the relational concept of a join. But again, that's a mainstay of any relational application. So those of you considering migrating from a relational infrastructure to NoSQL, make sure that you're looking at NoSQL that can support your relational constructs like Couchbase can. So this really highlighted Atlas's challenge with join support. Couchbase Cloud posted higher throughput with nearly 750 ops per second on a 6-node cluster compared with 100 ops per second for Atlas, and similarly great results in the 9 and 18-node tests. So in terms of value, this equated to a 693% advantage on 6 nodes, an astounding over 1,200% advantage on 9 nodes, and 267% advantage on 18 nodes, respectively. And as with the pagination workload, Amazon DynamoDB was ineligible to compete due to the nature of its indexing process and inability to fully support join operations, which eliminated them from this join workload. So stepping back to summarize, Couchbase Cloud is the database as a service that offers the lowest TCO of any database on the market. As the Altoros report showed, against the other two major competitors that are out there, it's from 2 to 12 times faster, node for node, than the competition. And customers can start with very few nodes on Developer Pro, take advantage of hourly pricing, minimize those costs even more. And then when you go to production, take advantage of prepaid discounts for more predictable pricing and costs. Customers choose their IaaS to maximize utilization. You start with small nodes for development again, and then go with full enterprise for production. And customers find that they save up to 75% by leveraging that in-VPC model and being able to take advantage of AWS reserved instances. And you can save even more, up to 20% with prepaid Couchbase credits, and up to 35% as you look at flexible SLA plans. So we want to make sure everybody understands that there's a free trial for Couchbase Cloud. I'll bring up that URL at the end, but you can get started quickly and start to see some of these amazing benefits for yourself. So a customer, I'll talk just for a moment about a customer, and then we'll wrap up and get to our Q&A. So Facet Digital develops and hosts web, mobile, and desktop applications for their customers across a variety of use cases, mostly around IoT data management and infrastructure consolidation. So part of their value proposition is that they promise the best performance and security at the lowest cost for the applications they build for their customers. But they were suffering initially before they came to Couchbase because they were unable to really meet these 3 points: best performance and security and lowest cost. So when they came to Couchbase Cloud, they put it through its paces and evaluated and found that it was really the only database as a service that they could find and they were on another competitive DBaaS infrastructure. But Couchbase Cloud addressed all three of those important points of best performance, best security, lowest cost. And they were able to achieve that. They switched again from another DBaaS to Couchbase Cloud to achieve that flexibility and performance that their application required. And according to Scott Bradley, who is their principal engineer, Couchbase was able to reduce their costs again by 50% and increase performance by 2,000%. And I think in looking at the Altoros results, we can see sort of how and why they were able to see such dramatic results. And they consolidated from 3 products as their infrastructure to one Couchbase platform. And they went from 3.5 days, 3.5 days for setup to 20 minutes. And I mean, just dramatic numbers that they've seen in productivity, cost savings, and the like. So Couchbase Cloud deploys in minutes, ready to go. It's fully optimized with enterprise features like query and search and security that slash development time and cost. And the NoSQL backbone of it is flexible enough to let Facet build applications that they can very quickly morph and fold in new innovations and new updates without requiring heavy lifting and a ton of a DBA's time. This is how they're able to deliver that speed and reliable performance for their customer base. Jeremy Groh is another principal engineer at Facet Digital, and he talked about savings linked to deployment time and developer productivity. He said that it used to take them, again, 3.5 days to get their legacy hosted solution up now, but it's only 20 minutes. And that reduction represents a 4,000% time savings. And if you really want to do the math, it's optimized out of the box. Facet Digital says that they really improved productivity by more than 5,000%. I mean, it's just amazing when you start to take a look at the benefits of really going to that cloud service model. And they're ultimately then able to pass their savings on to customers so that they can allocate resources toward their own innovative programming initiatives. So great story there from one of our customers at Couchbase Cloud. So as we come around to question and answer, I want to once again encourage everybody to go to cloud.couchbase.com/sign up. The free trial is self-service. You don't even have to talk to anybody. You don't have to swipe a credit card. You just get started to see how it works. You can spin up a test cluster, try out a few applications, and see for yourself just what a great benefit, how quickly you can get going. Start to realize again that low TCO, great return on investment, and nimble model for powering your innovations here in the post-pandemic economy. So with that, I'd like to turn it back over to Tracy for some questions, and we'll get towards our wrap-up.
Excellent. Thanks, Mark. Great presentation. Just a reminder, if you do have questions, please type your questions into the questions box. Mark, our first question, how easy or hard is it to go to NoSQL from Relational?
Yeah, great question. I'm sure related to the fact that many of those struggling systems are based on relational legacy backbones. And so we find this a lot. More and more of our customers are actually coming from the relational world. We actually had a recent webinar on this very topic. Matt Groves, my esteemed colleague, gave a great presentation. Check out our events page on Couchbase.com for that replay. In it, he talks about a strategy of migration that leverages and takes advantage of the fact that Couchbase Cloud adheres to relational concepts, like joins and being able to use SQL and things of that nature. And what you want to do then is migrate your relational source onto Couchbase into the NoSQL, but retain much of the schema. And then you can optimize it over time on Couchbase to take full advantages of the efficiencies of storing data in JSON. And that's such as the flexible nature of the ability to embed documents within documents to reduce joins and be able to add new attributes and new information to the data without requiring major schema changes. So check out that replay, but yes, we find this as a very common migration path for our customers.
Thanks, Mark. Our next question, can you talk about the pricing for this?
Sure. As I've said very briefly, we offer hourly consumption pricing, which is great for development because it allows you to spin up as much as you want, use it for as long as you need, and then either toss it away or repurpose it. And you can really get the maximum amount of flexibility for testing and development. And then we have discounted Couchbase Cloud credits for prepaid folks. And this is through a reward annual commitments. So this gives you that predictability of your spend that comes with production deployment. So customers who leverage credits can scale up and own their usage based on their application requirements. And we don't penalize you for missing a minimum consumption threshold one month or exceeding it the next. You pay for what you use. And we feel that by combining the performance profile of Couchbase Server with the customer's ability to both choose the nodes of their infrastructure and configure Couchbase to optimally use them, couple this with our competitive packaging and pricing, and we're all of this combined delivers that best-in-class TCO. So there's more information on couchbase.com/products/Couchbase Cloud, or cloud actually. So full pricing matrix there.
Thanks, Mark. Our next question, how does your service support HA?
Probably HA. Sounds like we might have an architect in the crowd. So I'm assuming that's around high availability. And that's key. I did sort of touch on this, but it's a great question answered by the built-in capability of cross data center replication. Again, I use the term XDCR, and this replicates data between clusters of the database. So what this does is it provides protection against data center failure, and it also speeds up data access for globally distributed mission-critical applications. So XDCR replicates data from a specific database bucket that's analogous to a table on the source cluster, and it just replicates it to another bucket on the target cluster. Simple, but hugely powerful in impact. So data from the source bucket pushed to the target bucket by means of cross data center replication, the utility running on the source cluster. And it uses a database change protocol. So any bucket on any cluster can be specified as a source or a target. And this is, again, our unique advantage over Atlas. There is no master bucket or master server in the equation. So through this ability to efficiently replicate and synchronize data in a distributed environment, that's how our customers get the highly performant and really highly resilient and available applications.
Excellent. Thanks, Mark. Our next question, and just a reminder, if anyone does have questions, you can still type them into the questions box. Mark, our next question, how do I move on my on-prem Couchbase instances to Couchbase Cloud?
So this is about going from, again, you're on-prem where you've installed, ostensibly, I'm assuming this person probably has an on-premises database that they want to potentially migrate. And there are really kind of two ways that customers do this, offline and online. So for online, you'd replicate your on-prem customer to a destination cluster on Couchbase Cloud. And that you leverage XDCR for that, as a matter of fact. We're producing a guide on that very topic as we speak. And then you can also do it offline if you wish. You can just export data from your existing Couchbase instance or any database, really, if you wish, as just comma-separated values using any backup manager. And then you can import the data to Couchbase Cloud using the restore functionality from the Cloud Control Plane. or the import functionality. So several ways, and again, stay tuned. We're producing a guide on that very topic with AWS, which should be out by the end of the month.
Thanks, Mark. Our next question, does Couchbase offer consulting to assist with migrations?
Yes, we have a professional services organization staffed, of course, with experts to assist with all things Couchbase, including migration. And for any of those thinking that, great consultants, don't think that way, because Couchbase Cloud Professional Services, we're a software company. We're not a consulting company. It's not in our DNA to send a consultant to work on your migration for the next 6 months. We have top experts that will help you in just a matter of days or weeks perform this. And their goal is to really usher a customer towards self-sufficiency. We don't have the resources to plant consultants at all of our customers. It's not our model. So really what we want is to make you successful and go on to the next engagement. And we offer quick start package engagements that are really designed to fit any budget.
Great, thanks. This looks like our last question, but again, if people have questions, you can still type them into the questions box. Mark, can Couchbase handle BLOB data for content management?
So BLOB, binary large object, blob. So somebody out there definitely probably has images, video, or the like. Couchbase is a memory-based document store, but that said, there are techniques for storing blob data on Couchbase. It involves chunking the data and referencing it. In essence, storing the blob data in one bucket with references to the blob data stored in another bucket. Lots of customers doing this. And the technique works well. There's even a blog out on blogs.couchbase.com that details how to set it up. I recommend that you check it out. We can provide the link offline to the asker after the event. But again, content management and engagement are very common use cases. For example, Louis Vuitton, one of our customers, has their catalog of inventory, all of their goods with photographs as built on top of Couchbase. And in fact, as part of their application, store employees carry a tablet that any customer could come in with a picture or an actual good or item, a shirt, let's say. And the representative, Louis Vuitton store representative, can take a picture of it on their tablet. That tablet has Couchbase on it, and the application has Couchbase as a back end. So the tablet will actually look up matching items that match that particular item that they took a picture of, and return options and tell the representative exactly where in the store it is, or if it's not in the current store, what store does have it. So again, the ability then to provide better customer service by being able to leverage these features of Couchbase, such as the ability for content management and image, the ability to take advantage of images. So great question.
Excellent. And Mark, that's all the questions that we have today. Do you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, I just sort of in wrapping up, I really want to come back to the goals at the top of the hour, were to describe how the right infrastructure, the right cloud-based service, and in fact the right database as a service can really help you meet these increasing demands of today's online applications. And hopefully I made the point that Couchbase Cloud is really your best option, offering the lowest TCO on the market as compared to other major competitors. So really appreciate the opportunity to speak to you today.
Excellent. Thanks, Mark. If you can advance, I think you have one more slide. Excellent.
Yeah. We just wanted to also remind folks, take advantage. There's zero risk. And actually, you don't have to talk to anybody, swipe a credit card, none of that to sign up and try the free trial. It's completely self-service. So take advantage of that. Go to cloud.couchbase.com/sign up. And looking forward to hearing and seeing what innovations those of you out there come up with on Couchbase Cloud.
Thank you, Mark, for such a great presentation today. And we'd also like to thank Couchbase for sponsoring today's event and thanking all of you for attending today's Modern Analyst webinar. I'd like to remind everyone that today's webinar, along with the slides, will be archived at the ModernAnalyst.com website within 2 business days. This concludes today's event, and we hope you have a great day. Thank you.